need more public transport. Thank you to Labor and the Greens for going down that route. But we also are facing a much hotter world with heat waves. We need public transport that can cope with these heat waves. We don't have power failures, we don't have unbearable heat, bucklings and train tracks and so on. What are you going to do to make sure our infrastructure can cope with warming, as well as the increased warming that is occurring because of all those dark roads out there? So what are you going to do about the future in a much hotter world? How is your public transport going to cope with that?
Thank you for that question, and it is a profound question, and I think all of us, if I can judge by the applause to that question, understand just how far we have to go to address this global issue. And I think at this time it is apt to recall where we were on issues of the environment and climate change just a few years back, where we had bipartisan support for pricing carbon, where it was in the top 3 issues across Australia that people wanted addressed, to exactly where we are now, where we have Liberal governments really across the country who have made it a cause célèbre to smash every significant environmental program that has been introduced over the last 30 years. In Victoria, believe me, I'm in the Parliament watching what Gladys' colleagues have done to solar, to wind, to cattle in the high country, to marine parks, and let's not even start federally on Tony Abbott and his greatest achievement in his mind, which was the abolition of the price on carbon. So if we are going to address these issues, and yes, transport is one of them, and stopping this major toll road and investing that money in public transport will be significant. But we in the room have a collective responsibility to say that we have to advocate and be out there to get this issue back into the mainstream, and to make sure that governments at every level that we are going to where we were and having those programs. I mean, the renewable energy target, smashing of that. Let's talk about the Napthine government's smashing of the VEET program. Time and again, we have seen this state and this country go so backwards under these Conservative governments. So yes, we need to invest in public transport, and that's clearly a key tonight. But we also have to make sure that governments, and they are Labor governments, are elected so that we can have the investment and the policy framework to make sure that we do have pricing on carbon, and that we do have proper solar energy and wind renewables. I mean, this is exactly why we're facing such a grave issue. We're not showing up in New York, for heaven's sake. And when you think where we were when Howard, prior to the election, had said he would price carbon, it is an extraordinary failure. And while we're on partisan politics, I think the Greens Party has to take some responsibility for their role in that process, and Adam Band's role in that process.
So I have a couple of other suggestions to make. First of all, I think we need to run more trains, trams and buses over a better planned network to basically tempt cars off the road, tempt people to leave their car at home. But putting freight on the rail is really important. So your typical freight train is about the equivalent of 110 trucks or so in terms of what it can carry, and a big cargo truck can pollute about as much as 100 or so cars. So you can see the pollution benefits of getting freight on the rail. The Greens want to boost renewable energy generation. We want to get rid of the ridiculous anti-wind farm rules and try and get our solar energy generation up there with South Australia that's got panels on a quarter of rooftops in that state. And so we want to generate 40% of the electricity used by our public transport network and by everything else from renewable sources by 2020. Now, buses, of course, will still use diesel or some other liquid fuel, but hybrid buses are available now that use about as much fuel as a Land Rover. And so we want to see more of this kind of technology. And bikes and feet have the lowest emissions of all, so improving bikes and pedestrian cars is a priority for us. But the other thing that we really need our governments to do is to stop viewing heat waves as acts of God. Many government human services are really ill-prepared for heat waves. I've just read through Victoria's Ebola fever plan, right? We are better prepared for Ebola in this state than we are for the next heat wave. Ebola is unlikely in Victoria. Someone may arrive, but a heat wave is pretty much certain. We had one in January, we had one in 2009, one this year, 270-something people, one in 2009, 300 odd. So I favour an inquiry into the preparedness of all levels of government to respond to heat waves. It's really been haphazard, a lot of responsibility has been devolved to councils and so on. We need to do a lot more than that. And we want PTV to require operators to build and maintain tracks and other infrastructure to a standard where it will survive. In terms of the issues of roads, I think trees are the single most important intervention we can do at this stage. Planting trees along the sides of roads. Where there's no space, there's some creative tricks that have been done in City Council by drilling a hole in the middle of the road and sticking one tree in the middle. Trees are extraordinarily good at reducing temperatures, not just underneath them, but for a considerable area away from them. That and exploring the benefits of alternative road services. Because this urban heat island effect is what kills those people. It's not the heat of the maximum temperature, it's the failure of the city to cool down overnight. And so that's something we really need to address.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, well, no doubt the weather has changed a bit, especially the last 2 days. You feel like summer at the moment. Now, tonight I'd like to focus our discussion on public transport. Now, if I can ask you to think about a few years ago, remember the icicles? The icicles. When you were at the train station, 40-degree day, Flinders Street station, you were given icicles. But now, do we need to do that? Haven't heard of it. Haven't heard about it for a few years now. And it's all because of the work that they've done, that I've mentioned earlier. Not only the train maintenance and also the rail maintenance. We have spent a lot of money and a lot of attention in improving our rail system. And that is what we are doing as a responsible government, that how we are dealing with the changing weather. Thank you.